Hey guys, Adam Mishan here, singer, songwriter, and vocal coach, and today we're going to be covering why does your voice sound terrible on recordings but good to you when you're singing it.
Run, run, lost boy, they say to me.
So I've gotten this question a lot. Why does sometimes my voice sound great when I'm listening to myself or if I'm singing in the shower, but why when I ask other people for their opinion of my voice, they say, it's not so good? Why does it sound so much better when I hear it than when other people hear it? Or put another way, this question could be, why does my voice sound so good in my head, but then when I listen back on a recording, it sounds terrible? So the main reason for this phenomenon is that we have an inner ear. So when we're listening to ourselves speak or sing on the inside, we hear ourselves through bone conduction as well as our voice in the room. Because of this difference between our inner and outer ear, it creates a skewed impression of what our voice actually sounds like, whether it be while you're singing or speaking. So now that you understand why this phenomenon exists, let's understand how we can go about correcting it or fixing it for yourself. In order to correct it, we have to reverse engineer the process. So the process is normally we sing and then we hear ourselves within our head, and then we listen back on a recording and we hate the sound. So what we want to do is actually end with what we want our voice to sound like on that recording, and then try to dial back what we need to do in our body to be able to create that sound on the recording. And to be able to do this, all you really need is a smartphone. I was very fortunate to stumble upon this technique because, as you may have seen through my singing transformation, if you've seen that video, I actually documented a lot of the process in my journey through when I sounded pretty terrible to the point where I sounded pretty good. So all you need is a voice recorder. It comes with almost every smartphone. If you're interested in learning more on how to sing, I created a resource that I wish would have been around when I was starting to sing. With the subscription I've created, you get access to all of the courses that I've created and more that are coming. You get access to all of my private lesson recordings that I have from other students so you can learn vicariously through them. And you get monthly one-on-one lessons with me. All of this is available for one low monthly price, and it's a very well-rounded approach to learn how to sing. Click the link down below to get access now. I mean, okay, it's not the best microphone in the world, but it'll get the job done. It'll give you an idea of what your voice sounds like. So in order to drive this idea home for you guys, I want to actually demonstrate what this type of adjusting looks like when you're listening back to the recording. All right, so let's start off with just a random phrase, spoken. Hey man, I really hate quarantine. It is driving me crazy. And that's actually true. So let's play that back. Hey man, I really hate quarantine. It is driving me crazy. All right, so far that kind of sounds a little bit more bright than the way that I'm hearing it in my head. I'm feeling a lot of the sensation, a lot of the bone conduction that makes my voice feel much more beefy and robust than it actually is. It actually sounds a lot brighter than it sounds in my head. So let's say I wanted to fix that, right? Let's say that brightness was bothering me. So what I would do is do something that would oppose that brightness. What's something that can create a little bit more of a richer tone? Position of my larynx. So if I'm speaking and my tone is coming out a little bit too bright, a little too nasally, then we can actually lower the larynx a little bit, and then that brings out a little bit more of the bass frequency. So we don't want to obviously overdo it. So this lowering of the larynx can happen just with modifying the way that we're shaping our vowels. Let's listen back one more time just so I can get that. Hey man, I really hate quarantine. It is driving me crazy. All right, so those were really wide vowels. So let's try some narrow vowels as we do that. Hey man, I am hating quarantine. It is driving me crazy. So I think my pitch also dropped as well, but you can definitely hear that there's a darker tonality just based on the way that I'm shaping my vowels. So let's listen back to that one. Hey man, I am hating quarantine. It is driving me crazy. All right, so I think that gets a good idea of what it is if you wanted to darken your tone or wanted to adjust it to make it sound a little bit more full, a little bit richer. It just brings out a little bit more of that lower bass frequency. So now let's try something sung. Quarantine, oh quarantine. It's driving me crazy and I can't wait to leave my house. All right, just something totally off the cuff there. So let's listen back to that. What did that sound like versus what it sounded like in my head? So I can tell you right now what that sounded like in my head. It sounded a little rounded. It sounded not so punchy, a little bit like warm. That's kind of how I would describe it. Very different than the way that my speaking voice is sounding right now. I've got a little bit of a head cold, so that is affecting things as it is, but yeah.
Quarantine, oh quarantine, it's driving me crazy and I can't wait to leave my house.
All right, so that actually sounded pretty similar to what I've gotten used to being able to make this transition from the way it sounds in my head versus what it sounds like on the recording. But the one thing that didn't quite come through on the recording that I was going for when I was singing it to myself in my own body was that I wanted it to sound a little brighter. So what can we do to make it sound brighter? If it's sounding a little bit dull for you, or it's not sounding the way as much cut as you want the voice to have, what is something you can do? Well, we can isolate the part of the voice that actually creates that cut. So what's the part of the voice that creates that cut?
It's a little bit of this, what I like to call the whiny kid. If you were whining, no, mommy, I don't want to. That is the cut and the brightness in the voice.
So essentially what I would do is emphasize that type of cut and whininess in the recording. So let's do that here. Quarantine, oh quarantine, it's driving me crazy and I can't wait to leave my house. So something like that, adding a little bit more of this kind of like whininess to the tone. And then I caught myself re-recording that part that I said. Anyways.
Quarantine, oh quarantine, it's driving me crazy and I can't wait to leave my house.
So definitely not perfect. It's got more of that cut there. I've got a little bit of a head cold, drive me nuts, but that is, don't worry, it's not what you think it is. So that's basically how you do it. And you make these small adjustments, constantly refocusing, listening back to the recording, making a new adjustment, recording again. What does that sound like? And then trying to bridge that gap between the way that we sound in our head to the way that you sound on recordings. And then in that way, you'll actually be able to make much better real-time estimations of how you're actually sounding when you're just singing in general, because you'll know more or less how you're going to end up sounding on the recording. So I hope this helps. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. If you like this video, click the like button. It helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. If you want to see more videos like this, right there, that one, you're going to like it. Click on it. You see it? Click it.